Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first ever episode of the XFFL Show. I'm your host, Josh Mitchell, also the owner of the New England Nexus, also the commissioner of the XFFL. I know a lot of hats that I wear. It is what it is, but welcome to the first ever XFFL show. We're going to make this a weekly thing where we're going to break down all the teams, whether it's the matchups, whether it's a player of the week. In this case, our first show will be breaking down the XFFL Draft, and it was a doozy, if I say so myself. Again, we're going to kind of break down each team, who they selected, and I'm kind of going to give a breakout player, possibly, where they were kind of drafted on the lower end, probably rounds 8 through whatever we went to, and kind of say, well, he's not being relied on, but could have a breakout year, but don't want to cross my fingers on him. You never know. But we're going to give him each of those teams one of those players that I believe could have a breakout year for being a guy on the bench, a breakout bench player. That's what I was trying to say. But yeah, let's kind of start off in the beginning. The first round of the XFFL draft. First on the board is Najee Harris going to the Carpetbaggers, followed by Travis Etienne going to the newly claimed Malone Mutiny. Followed by that is the New York Potato Skins taking J.K. Dobbins, followed by Antonio Gibson going to the Charlotte Outlaws, followed by C.D. Lamb going to Jeff's team, Big Bend. Followed by that, David Montgomery going to the Cleveland Clowns. Then Lamar Jackson coming off the board in the first round, going to the Alpine Extreme. Keenan Allen would then make his return to the Riverhead Blue Waves. Then Mike Evans falls to the New England Nexus at the 9th pick. And then Darren Waller going all the way to the final selection of the first round to the Rochester Revenge, the reigning and defending XFFL champion. I know it's sad for me personally losing in the XFFL title, but we're gonna move past that. And because I'm supposed to be a not biased person here for this show, but yeah, first round, obviously some caveats to some injuries and whatnot have kind of taken a hit on a certain team that we'll get to. But overall, first round was very electric, some shocking, and overall, just a very solid round. But we're not here to talk about the round the whole time, and we're not going to go round by round. We're going to go team by team, and we're going to be starting off with the owner of the North Carolina Carpetbaggers, Zach Phillips. Now, let's talk about his draft results. As you can see on the bottom of the screen, I'll be showing round by round. Again, we already talked about Najee Harris, but then Chris Godwin with his second overall pick in the second round, followed by Robert Woods and Brandon Ayuk. Here is the rest of the picks for the Carpetbaggers. He ended up getting Noah Fant, Aaron Rodgers, Dallas Goedert. Overall, a pretty strong team. He was actually ranked the highest amongst the Yahoo rankings for at least the XFFL for projections for a season with a lot of points. I mean, Tyler Boyd coming off as his 9th pick, then James Conner, Harrison Butker, the Denver defense, and of course, his 3 keepers, Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, and Allen Robertson, the wide receiver from the Chicago Bears. He has a strong running back core. I mean, your 1, 2, 3 is Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, and Najee Harris. I mean, you're going to be fine. And you ended up getting Aaron Rodgers, your boy, Mr. Phillips. So overall, a heck of a draft, I would say. Now, when it comes to the breakout bench player, I'm going to go with this man. James Conner going to the Arizona Cardinals after being with the Pittsburgh Steelers the past couple of years, having that breakout year when Le'Veon Bell decided to say, I'm going to stay home and get a bigger paycheck. It didn't work out in the end for him. But James Conner has a new home. Kenyon Drake's not there, but Chase Edmonds is. There's kind of that who's going to be the one carrying the ball most of the time. They're saying Chase Edmonds, but I mean, James Conner had a 1,000-yard year a couple of years ago. It's not in the world of possibilities that he could do it again. And the electric offense of DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray, come on. And that defense should be stout this year too. When it comes down to it, I would have to say James Conner is the North Carolina Carpetbaggers breakout bench player. But we must move on to probably the biggest shocker of the draft. Teams ended up switching. I don't want to say switching. New ownership took over at the end of the draft. And his name is Chris Bacaro. He is now the owner of the Malone Mutiny. Don't know if they have a catchphrase, but he does have a monkey on his team logo. So you know he means business. And let's break down the picks. However, he did not pick these players. They're just on his team now. Travis Etienne, Wolf, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, James Robinson, a very, very good pick now. Jalen Waddle, Juju Smith-Schuster, and you can just look at the list right here. I know we just talked about James Conner a few seconds ago, but now Chase Edmonds goes to the Malone Mutiny. Rob Gronkowski, Jalen Hurts, Will Fuller. He will be out the first 4 weeks due to steroids, so yikes, but couldn't end up having a good year. He has the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. He has Ryan Suckup. You know, they're going to be near the end zone a lot in Tampa Bay, so that's good. And his three keepers, George Kittle, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Justin Herbert. Now, obviously, you're looking at those keepers, kind of very diverse. You had the quarterback of the future. You have the running back potentially of the future. And you have easily, if not the number one or not the number two, number three, easily a top three tight end. When healthy, easily could be number one tight end and George Kittle. So overall, the Malone Mutiny, their number one thing that I would stress that is strong with that team is youth. Justin Herbert, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jamar Chase, Travis Etienne when he ends up coming back from his Liz Frank injury. James Robinson now is going to step up and get a lot of those carries now. And my player that I believe will be a breakout bench player, Jalen Waddle. Now, you may be thinking Devontae Parker's already on this team, Will Fuller's already on this team, but Jalen Waddle, hear me out. Tua Tagovailoa, if that's how you pronounce it. I've seen way too many pronunciations of his name. And him, teammates. We're already hyping up Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Why not Tua and Jalen Waddle? I still think there's that possibility if he ends up being the slot guy or the top guy. Devontae Parker is going to be your red zone threat. The outside guy, Will Fuller, he can be a slot guy at times, but he's usually down the field making 60-yard catches. Jalen Waddle, running across the middle, is going to take some hits, but he could be the breakout bench player for the Malone Mutiny. Now, we must move on to a team that changed their name right before the draft started. I had a little hint of it week prior, but officially made his name change, and that is Brian Machilla's very own team, the New York Potato Skins, formerly known as the Redskins, because you know, cancel culture. So let's break down what the Potato Skins have for their team. He was the third overall pick, ended up taking J.K. Dobbins with his first overall pick. DeAndre Swift was the next running back off the board for him. Darrell Henderson, another running back. 3 running backs in a row. Then you have TJ Hawkinson. You have Deontay Johnson. You have Myles Gaskin. And here is the rest of his team. Now, I want to point out, he only drafted for 6 rounds. Did a lot of great offseason work. Kenny Galladay was his next pick, followed by Jerry Jeudy, Brandon Cooks, Tom Terrific Brady, the Baltimore defense, Justin Tucker, like that pairing right there. And then his 3 keepers, Joe Mixon, Jonathan Taylor, and of course, DeAndre Hopkins. Now, with this team, obviously, when you look at it on paper, There is a lot of strength at the running back position. While some may say a lot of unprovenness, I say to that depth. And I say to you, a lot of high-skilled players. TJ Hawkinson, nothing to sleep on. Obviously, his two running back keepers, nothing to sleep on. DeAndre Hopkins, we know what he can do. But overall, in the grand scheme of things, he's put in the work, obviously, last year with all the trades and whatnot. And he's really come through, as you can see, with this team. Now, when it comes to the breakout bench player, I'm going to have to go with this man, Brandon Cooks. Now, they're still going to throw the ball. They're going to be down by a lot of points. So you know what that means? They're going to throw to Brandon Cooks. I mean, you look at Mr. Michello's roster, it's stacked. Brandon Cooks doesn't need to be in the starting lineup. However, if he has a couple, 2-3 weeks in a row, he could be trade bait or he could be plugged into the starting lineup. There is a lot of ups and downs that could have happened, but there's also this chance that he just goes back to the Brandon Cooks that we all know. I believe it's 5 out of the 6 seasons had 1,000 yards. Come on, that's insane. But moving on from Mr. Michello's team to Mr. Warren, Mr. Mike Warren with his Charlotte Outlaws, another name change. The man has been moving the past couple of years, but Charlotte is now his home, and now he is the Outlaws. When it comes to his draft, obviously we already talked about it. First round pick, Antonio Gibson, followed by Cooper Kupp, Josh Jacobs, T. Higgins, Mike Gesicki, someone to look out for this year for the Miami Dolphins, DJ Chark, and here is the rest of his squad that he drafted. Followed by that, we had Matthew Stafford, Zach Moss, Evan Ingram, Michael Gallup. Kind of fell a little bit because we know what CeeDee Lamb and Mari Cooper can do, but could be a breakout star this year. The Los Angeles Rams defense, that's a very good pick. Jason Myers, the Seattle kicker, and of course, his 3 keepers, Saquon Barkley, Julio Jones, and the emerging Josh Allen. Overall, a pretty decent squad. I will say there might be some little shifting with the wide receivers. Obviously, Julio moving to the Titans, Cooper Kupp and the Robert Woods connection. You don't know which one Matthew Stafford's going to kind of lean towards. And then there's this one guy that could be the bench breakout player because he probably isn't going to be starting for the Charlotte Outlaws, but I feel as if he could prove all the doubters wrong this year. That's Josh Jacobs. Now, I know I said this earlier when I mentioned probably like rounds 8 and later, Josh Jacobs was a top 3 round pick. There's all this speculation that Kenyon Drake's going to take away some of the catching, some of the running at some point. Josh Jacobs did a heck of a job the past 2 years with this team. This guy could potentially, again, it's not necessarily breaking out, but it's kind of a little breaking out of what you call everyone's perspective and mindset on him. There could be potential for him to have another 1,000-yard year. Will it happen? Probably not, but he could be that goal line guy. He could be getting 10 rushing touchdowns from like the 2-yard line, which just helps for fantasy purposes. But if they feel that John Gruden wants to give it to the hot hand and Josh Jacobs is that guy, then he is that guy. I think there is potential for him to rise up. Obviously, I don't know what Mr. Mike Warren is going to do for starting purposes throughout the year, but there's always that opportunity for Josh Jacobs to kind of prove the doubters wrong. Then moving on to a also new name change, the Big Ben Blackbeards, captain and coached and owned by Jeff Bell. Now, you're going to notice a theme with this team, and there's usually, you're not supposed to have theme teams when it comes to drafting for fantasy football, but you'll see with the first couple of picks. First overall pick, CeeDee Lamb going off the board. His second round pick, Kyle Pitts, the rookie tight end, going to Atlanta. His third pick, Dak Prescott, 2 Cowboys in the first 3 picks. Followed by Ronald Jones, then Melvin Gordon, then Michael Pittman, and here are the rest of his draft picks. He ended up snagging Joe Burrow with the 7th pick, followed by the Washington football team's defense, Henry Ruggs, Mike Williams, the Los Angeles Chargers wide receiver, McCole Hardman from Kansas City, Jake Elliott, Philadelphia's kicker, and his 3 keepers, Travis Kelce, Ezekiel Elliott, and, of course, DK Metcalf. Guy has been a terror, a machine on that field. So, looking at this team, obviously, there's one thing that pops out that I haven't asked him yet. When he comes on the show, I'll ask him when it comes to drafting, why you drafted Kyle Pitts with your second round pick when you already had Travis Kelce, the number 1 tight end in the league, as a keeper. Don't know if it's trade bait. Don't know if he's going to use Kyle Pitts as a flex, which would be pretty interesting, I would say, using 2 tight ends. Possibly could have a breakout year with Kyle Pitts. I know it's his first year. Technically, it shouldn't be called a breakout year, but hear me out. There's a lot of speculation of Kyle Pitts on what he can do in that Atlanta offense. I still think he's just a big wide receiver, ended up playing in the tight end position. So I think he's going to do fantastic. That's just my opinion, Dale. However, that is not who I picked to be the breakout bench player for this team. Mike Williams, the Chargers of Los Angeles, wide receiver. Now, why him? Well, you see, when he's healthy, he's easily a top 5 wide receiver. Wait for it. Catching in traffic. He's a big body. He's got big arms. He has a big wingspan. The dude is, I don't want to say Calvin Johnson. I don't want to say DeAndre Hopkins, but I want to say his game models that. He'll box you out. He'll make a spectacular catch over 2 guys on the run in the end zone, toe tapping on the sidelines. However, he's not healthy enough. He's very likely to get injured. I don't want to say injury prone because a lot of people have turned me away from saying that. He's very likely to get injured at some point this season because it happens often. But if he stays healthy, he's easily one of the guys that you, I guess, can rely on if he's healthy. Because honestly, who's the number 2? And I'm not saying Austin Eckler for the Los Angeles Chargers. It's Mike Williams. I believe they got Jared Cook this offseason, so that's an option for them. You lost Hunter Henry, which we'll get to later on. But overall, for the Big Ben Blackbeards, I'm sticking with it. I'm thinking Mike Williams could be that breakout bench player. Next, the Cleveland Clowns and their draft. A very, very interesting draft for the one and only Tom Walker. And let's break it down for you. Number 1 overall pick for his team, David Montgomery, followed by Carolina Panthers wide receiver DJ Moore, followed by Carolina Panthers wide receiver Robbie Anderson, then Damian Harris of New England, Deebo Samuel, wide receiver San Francisco, Robert Tonyan, the tight end from Green Bay, and here's the rest of the Clowns draft picks. We got Devin Singletary, we got Baker Mayfield, we got Tyler Bass, kicker from Buffalo, we got the Cleveland defense for the Cleveland Clowns, of course, and Curtis Samuel, the Washington football team wide receiver, followed by that Rondell Moore, rookie wide receiver, Arizona, keepers, Nick Chubb, Tyreek Hill, and Kyler Murray. Looking at that team face value, those 3 keepers, Kyler Murray is going to be a top 5 quarterback this year. Tyreek Hill is going to be a top 5 wide receiver this year. Nick Chubb, most likely, if he stays healthy, is a top 5 running back this year. That's pretty stacked. However, I do come into the question why we're drafting DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson back-to-back picks. Again, when we have Mr. Tom Walker on the show, we can discuss what was his mindset in doing that. Maybe this is the Sam Darnold show. in Carolina, and he just throws to only those two guys in Christian McCaffrey. And there is a possibility that connection with Sam Darnold and Robbie Anderson thrives again, or I should say thrives again. But that's his draft, folks, and it's not too shabby. Again, I had one of the stronger groups of three for keeper purposes. But what do I feel is the breakout bench player for the Clowns? Curtis Samuel, his second to last pick. He's on to a new team, not a Carolina Panther wide receiver this year. That would have been something, though. He's to the Washington football team. Ryan Fitzpatrick is his quarterback. It's crazy to say Ryan Fitzpatrick is still the quarterback of some team. All the ups and downs. It's crazy. But Terry McLaurin's going to have a good year. I believe Logan Thomas is going to have a good year. But they never really had that number 2 guy for the Washington football team the past couple of years. I believe that can be Curtis Samuel. He's a deep threat, but he also does a lot of drags and slants over the middle, some quick out routes, some check downs. Obviously, you still have Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick. That's still going to be a very powerful 1-2 punch, but obviously you're going to need to throw the ball. I believe Curtis Samuel can be that guy to get you, 600, 750 yards catching, maybe 5, maybe 7 touchdowns. There's that possibility there, and I believe Curtis Samuel is at the right place, right time, right system, and honestly, right division. I mean, it is the NFC East, or some may say NFC least. Ha, I'm so funny. But yeah, and that will do it for the Cleveland Clowns. On to a good friend of the Cleveland Clowns, the Alpine Extreme owner, head coach, captain, Derek Polacki, had a decent draft as well. Let's run through the picks. Obviously, first overall for his team, Lamar Jackson doubles down on the Ravens, takes tight end Mark Andrews, followed by Javonte Williams, rookie running back from the Denver Broncos, Odell Beckham Jr. in the 4th round, Raheem Mostert, Michael Thomas with the 6th round pick. Obviously, we did our draft a little early. Obviously, his draft stock has climbed down. Here's the rest of his picks. Tyler Higbee, tight end Los Angeles Rams. Corey Davis, wide receiver for the Jets, followed by another Jet, crazy. Michael Carter, the running back. Austin Hooper, tight end, Cleveland. Matt Prater, the kicker, this time Arizona. And the San Francisco defense, followed by his 3 keepers, Alvin Kamara, Adam Action Thielen, and Calvin Action Ridley. I must apologize. I should have said Action Alvin Kamara too. Everyone's action, and I already screwed it up too. Should have been Adam Total Thielen. Whatever. Action Total. Overall, a pretty good draft, I would say. Again, making that bold statement early on, taking Lamar Jackson, the first quarterback coming off the board that wasn't a keeper, then doubling down and taking Mark Andrews, the tight end. Action Andrews. I know. So there's a lot of potential for that deadly duo, and obviously with your keepers too. So Alpine Extreme never been at the bottom of the rankings every year. They're usually towards the top. So it's very interesting to see kind of where this will shake up in the later times. Obviously, throughout the year, it'll be very interesting. Obviously, it's been speculated Lamar has not gotten the vaccine, so that kind of protocol is completely different for him than it is for those who do have the vaccine. So I'm interested. I'm interested to see if that works out for him. I had him last year. He did great for me. Can he repeat success? We will find out. But now it comes to the breakout player for the Alpine Extreme. I'm choosing Michael Carter, the Jets running back. No bias here. They currently, I believe, have 5 running backs on this roster, so I'm not expecting much. Also, he was a 4th round pick, I believe, this year for the Jets. So again, are we on the Jets, putting my Jets hat on, are we going to throw a rookie running back into a situation with a rookie quarterback and pretty much a brand new offense? I don't know. It is possible. But I do feel Michael Carter does have a chance. to be someone that's on someone's bench, in this case, the Alpine Extreme, and just kind of rise up and ending up taking it by the horns and kind of going that extra step. Because right now, are we really thinking Tevin Coleman is going to be the feature back? Honestly, yes. Should it be? I wish it wasn't, but it is. So if Michael Carter wants to step up and do it, by all means, and obviously it would help out the Alpine Extreme and Derek Palaki. So I believe Michael Carter has a chance. This is one of the lower ones on my breakout bench rankings, but I believe the risk the reward outweighs it. There's barely any risk here. Obviously, you already have running backs on your roster, so if he doesn't do well, that's okay. You just go pick up Tevin Coleman. If he does well, you bump him into your starting roster. Everything's good. So overall, Michael Carter, New York Jets / Alpine Extreme for being a potential breakout bench player. Then we move on to another name change. Anthony Carragher changing the team from the New York, New Jersey Hitmen to the Riverhead Blue Waves, shouting out to his hometown and his hometown school team. Let's break down the interesting draft for Mr. Carragher. His first overall pick, Keenan Allen. Second, Amari Cooper going back-to-back wide receivers. Followed by that is Russell Wilson. Then Mike Davis, the Atlanta Falcons running back. Followed by that is Courtland Sutton. Next, he went with Irv Smith, the tight end from the Minnesota Vikings. And here is the rest of his squad. Antonio Brown. What do you know? Tampa Bay wide receiver coming off the board there. Next, Tampa Bay's defense coming off the board as well. Followed by that, Justin Fields, a promising rookie quarterback for the Chicago Bears. Latavius Murray, running back, New Orleans Saints, the backup to Kamara. Then Jason Sanders. And his final pick was Zach Ertz. His three keepers, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, and Devontae Adams. Without a doubt, this man had the best keepers probably in all of fantasy football. I mean, here in the XFFL, we kind of do things differently, and we allow just three keepers. There's no restrictions. There's no, you just draft them where you drafted them. Nope, just three keepers straight up. Has two of the top four running backs and one of the top three wide receivers, if not the top one or two wide receiver in the league. That's going to be hard to beat. And again, when you stack it up with Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, and Russell Wilson, that's your starting lineup. I mean, Irv Smith is kind of a question mark for the team, but overall, it's pretty good. He has a pretty good team. He kind of threw all his chips in last year and it didn't work out. But looking at this draft, it's looking pretty good for him. But now, who do I feel will be the breakout bench player for the Riverhead Blue Waves? Mike Davis, running back Atlanta Falcons. Have you seen this man's calves? Whew, my goodness. This dude is a tank, and he filled the void last year when Christian McCaffrey was down for the Carolina Panthers. I would know personally. I picked him up last year. Did me wonders for, I believe, 7 or 8 weeks. Then Christian McCaffrey would come back, get hurt again. Mike Davis would carry it. Obviously, as I said before, you already have Dalvin Cook. You already have Derrick Henry. Those are your two running backs. But what if Mike Davis decides to go, yeah, I'll carry the load as well here too? You have Mike Davis, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, but then you also have Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen, and who am I forgetting? Amari Cooper. All 6 stay healthy. You can only play 5. That's scary. That is so scary that he can only play 5 out of those 6. Out of those, I'd probably, obviously, Mike Davis is the one that falls short a little bit. I would still play Amari, still play Keenan Allen, Devontae, Cook, Henry. But Mike Davis, that's a scary, scary, scary bench player or a potential trade option down the line. or just someone, again, that sits on his bench in case Derrick Henry goes down, in case Dalvin Cook goes down. It's literally swapping a running back one for a running back one. You don't see that often. You don't see that rarely ever. So a very, very good job there. And then we get to my favorite team. No bias, of course. All right, a little bit of bias. The New England Nexus. Head coach, owner, and captain, me, Josh Mitchell, of course. Well, falling short, unfortunately, to the Rochester Revenge and Scott Sheehan last year in that championship game. The man I hated the most ends up being our first overall pick. Crazy how things work, huh? Mike Evans, the man that went off in the championship game for the Rochester Revenge, now home to the New England Nexus. Then, of course, we got Miles Sanders going second. We had Kareem Hunt, Chase Claypool, Laviska Shenault, Leonard Fournette, and, of course, I got those out there. Logan Thomas, my boy, as well as Vinny Meyer's boy. Here's the rest of my picks for the New England Nexus. We had Ryan Tannehill. We had Darnell Mooney. We had Younghoe Koo, Brian Michella's boy, now my boy. The Buffalo Bills defense and New York Jets starting quarterback, Zach Wilson. My three keepers, Terry McLaurin, Aaron Jones, A.J. Brown. Looking at those keepers, they're not too bad. We have a top 10 running back there. We have two top 15, top 20 wide receivers. Probably say two top 15 wide receivers there. And again, the man that I demised and despised for months ends up being my first overall pick. It didn't hit me until I started recording this that I got the guy I hated the most now playing for me. It's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, a lot of potential here with this team. Non-bias. Obviously, the running back depth is a little bit of a concern for me. Aaron Jones and Miles Sanders will be starting. I don't know if I really like Miles Sanders. Backups are Kareem Hunt and Leonard Fournette. Obviously, if their predecessors, the running back ones of those teams, get hurt in Ronald Jones and Nick Chubb, those become running back ones. So it's very contingent on how the season goes for them. I don't pray for injuries. I don't ask for injuries. But if they happen, I'm going to capitalize on them. So when it comes down to it, who did I pick to be the breakout bench player for my team? I chose Darnell Mooney. Now, obviously, there's some other guys I could have mentioned in there. Basically, most of my bench for that matter. But I'll say it like this. Chicago has a true number one wide receiver now in Robinson. Right now, they got nothing else. They got a decent running back core with David Montgomery, Tariq Cohen, and Damian Williams coming from the Chiefs. So that should be an interesting trio. I might be speaking on my butt, but I still think it's an interesting trio. But who's really the wide receiver two? We've seen this guy named Adams kind of put on a couple highlights, but I still believe that Darnell Mooney can be the wide receiver two for this team. And especially if Justin Fields can get in, I still believe probably by week 8 at minimum he'll be in. But I mean, if Andy Dalton's going off, he's throwing to Darnell Mooney, fine by me. But again, for the New England Nexus, me, I already have Mike Evans. I already have A.J. Brown. I have Terry McLaurin. Obviously, I'm going to play all three, but then there's Darnell Mooney. Obviously, when it comes to subbing in and out or a bye week, that'd be fantastic to have that go-to guy to just sub on in, because I don't know how Chase Claypool's going to do. He's already kind of injured. I don't know how Laviska Shenault's going to do because he's kind of the wide receiver 3 or 4 on the Jacksonville Jaguars. But Darnell Mooney probably might be the wide receiver 2. I feel he can have a major impact for the Bears this year. And then there was one. The man who came up to me at a bar probably 3 years ago, and he uttered the words, "I'm going to win a championship at some point." Scott Sheehan, congratulations on being the 2020 XFFL Champion, the Rochester Revenge. But my goodness, that team was something. And of course, you only get to keep 3 keepers, and he kept some really good keepers, but kind of put a little pause there because we have to talk about the draft and who he took. We already discussed this a little earlier on. Darren Waller was his first overall pick, followed by Chris Carson, the Seattle running back, followed by another Seattle player, Tyler Lockett. That's been a theme for many teams, going back-to-back players of the same team. Trey Sermon, San Francisco 49ers running back, followed by Jarvis Landry, Hunter Henry, Trevor Lawrence, the Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback. It will be the backup for the Rochester Revenge. And of course, here's the rest of his team. He drafted Kenyon Drake, followed that, Cole Kmet. The Patriots defense, what a surprise. Rodrigo Blankenship, also what a surprise. And of course, Ramondre Stevenson, followed by his 3 keepers, Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson, and Patrick Mahomes. I'm liking the team. I'm liking the team a lot. Obviously, when you have that 10th pick in the last selection of every single round, of course, if you traded, you get a different one. It's hard to find good talent because most of them are already gone within the first couple of rounds. But he snagged tight end 1, 2, or 3 potentially, and Darren Waller. Chris Carson can definitely have an up or down year. Depends on if he's injured. They did re-sign him, I believe, 1 year, but possibly 2. So it's kind of showing what you got, Chris Carson. And again, Tyler Lockett's always going to be Mr. Dependable for Russell Wilson. But all the grand scheme of things, it chose this man for the breakout bench player. Hunter Henry. Yes, another what a surprise for Scott Sheehan, the Patriots fan. There's so much potential with Hunter Henry, but there's kind of the stacks of he needs this, 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 and this, and this, and this, and this to go right. 1, stay healthy. Pretty obvious. 2, who's your quarterback? Is it Cam Newton? Is it Mac Jones? I have said this probably since 2010. Rookie quarterbacks love their pass-catching tight ends. It is all over. You can look up stats all the time. Anywhere from like Mark Sanchez, Tua Tagovailoa, literally everybody. Every rookie quarterback has some connection with the tight ends. I don't know if it's the shorter routes, if it's just more reliable. I don't know what it is. Or if they're matched up against linebackers. I literally have no clue, but there's just something in there. So if it is Mac Jones, Hunter Henry, through the roof. Calling it right now. Obviously, Jonnu Smith is there. They're going to share some reps. Maybe they'll do 2 tight end sets. I don't know what Josh McDaniels is going to do. Even though I live in Massachusetts, they're not really disclosing what they're going to do or the quarterback is. Man, I hope it's Mac Jones. But if that's the case, 100%, like all the chips in, Hunter Henry. And again, he already has a tight end. He got that in Darren Waller. So there's always that chance that he gets hurt. Quick plug and play, Hunter Henry. He can get you 15 points, 20 points. Obviously, the tight end position, unless your name is Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, or George Kittle, I can't expect you to get 20 points. Maybe there's always that chance with Hunter Henry. But that's who I feel is the breakout bench player for the Rochester Revenge, the reigning, defending, undisputed champion of the XFFL, Scott Sheehan and the Rochester Revenge. But yes, that, ladies and gentlemen, was the XFFL Draft Recap Show. Again, we're going to have this show weekly. Obviously, we're not going to be talking about the draft next time. We're kind of going to break down the matchups for week 1 and kind of see who's going to build a rivalry here and there, if there was free agency pickups. And yes, there has been. We'll save that for the next one. Obviously, the big injury to Travis Etienne, what that means for James Robinson and the Malone Mutiny. we're going to go over a lot of things. And again, I haven't decided who's going to be my first guest, but show me some love. I'll show you some love. It's kind of a partnership here as your commissioner, as the owner of the New England Nexus, and as the host of the show, the XFFL Show. I thank you for tuning in and watching, and I will see you next week